And for a guy that absolutely bows down to the police department, I'm just amazed that he's saying something like that in the same breath.
That's why he's scared.
Corruption, yeah.
No, I'll tell you why. It's election time.
Good morning. Welcome back to Talking Racine. On my left, Mr. George Myers.
Good morning.
To my right, Mr. Jim Spodek.
Good morning.
Producer-director, I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host. And it's good to be back in the studio, gentlemen.
Yep.
The Vendetta studio here. It's that was a little bit of a trying event last Saturday over there at Gateway Technical College. I know a lot of you watched it online. It was nice of some of you to show up and actually take part in that live. But here we are back in the studio, and it's kind of comfortable to be back in familiar surroundings.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got a few things we're going to cover tonight, and the very first thing we're going to go over is you got a tape of Alderman Q.A. Shakur, I think, lined up, haven't you?
Right.
And he's discussing a change or a prospective change in policy whereby departments of the city are allowed to receive donations from the public. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you haven't given the city any money beyond your taxes, think about it, because this is an issue that Alderman Shakur is thinking about with a great deal of thought. It's currently limited at $500 before the city council has to approve of the donation. Alderman Henry Perez proposed raising that limit to $2,500, and Q.A. Shakur, Alderman of the 8th District, is speaking against that proposed change for reasons of...
Well, it could be corruption.
Could be corruption.
There could be some corruption involved, and there's donations from.
Yeah, because I don't know how many people have been throwing $25 or $100 donations at various city departments, but apparently it's something to be concerned about. Why don't we fire up that clip and see what he has to say?
The aldermen of the 8th don't support this, and the reason being, on your desk, if you look, you will see from a document that was back in February 16th of 2005, and this is very loose. If you change that, this is the summation of what we're looking at here. I think this should be more clear. We should have the policies and things should be principled, and it should be clear. Now, the way this reads, all donations must be recorded and reported to the Finance Committee annually. No matching money or in-kind contributions can be made without Finance and Council approval. The dollar limit to accepting donations without council approval will be $500. Now we're talking about changing this to $2,500 per donations. And the funds must be used for donated purposes, and such purpose must be consistent with city policy. Now, you know, as all 15 of us are here in this council, when it comes to interpreting and deciding what this really means, we don't necessarily always agree.
Okay, now let's see. He is the chairman of the Finance Committee, right?
Correct.
So right now, anything that is over $500 comes to his committee for approval?
Correct. Well, it comes to the Common Council for approval. It may go to Finance. I don't know.
Well, I think it does, the way he was explaining it. You know, on an annual basis.
What it does is, when someone makes a donation, it has to go to the Finance Committee. Almost anything that happens has to go first to a committee, then the committee investigates it, comes up with a recommendation, which sends to the council, and then the council votes on whether to accept the recommendation or not, or send it back or whatever. But he stated pretty clearly how the ordinance works. In other words, if someone wants to make a donation, they have to send it to the Finance Committee for approval. And right now, it has to be used for the reasons specified in the donation. Can't be any use this for this and use it for something else.
Well, why doesn't he tell us how many of these are being made? I mean, he doesn't give any statistics like we only see 2 of these a year.
Well, here's what I think is interesting. He says, he's got the ordinance.
Is this a turf thing? I mean, if this is his turf, it's supposed to come to me.
No. Let me give you a little bit of an answer to that. I think it's very unusual for it to come from the private sector. Yeah. There's a lot of them come from other levels of government. A lot of them go to the health department almost exists entirely on these grants. They call them grants. And every one of those grants that comes in has to go to the finance department, and some from the health department will go in there and say, well, I want to accept this, and then the committee says, okay, that's fine, they send it over to the council for approval. So there's a lot of those. These little ones that are less than 500, of course, you'd never heard of one, because they don't have to go through the council.
Well,
and I don't know if anybody in the private sector actually does this. So that's a real question.
Yeah. Well, you may get the Kiwanis that'll donate, or somebody might donate computers. I mean, there are some things that come into the city that, hey, we want to donate to the city or to one of the news centers,
it could be a
or
thing
whatever.
right. As long as
and I understand that.
Well, we have
but
to
from 500 to 2,500 doesn't seem like that big a leap. To $2,500. But his explanation, one of the things that interests me is he's got the ordinance distributed to all the other aldermen. Whoa, wait a sec. Machinery Row, they had documents here that were so fraudulent that you couldn't, you look at them and they were gleaming fraud in front of you.
Well,
couldn't find them.
No, he didn't distribute those to the other aldermen?
Oh, my God. Well, he was in the middle of that Machinery Row. I mean, it's a high-level corruption you can get. Couldn't find them.
Yeah, but there was only millions of dollars there. I mean, we're talking here $2,500.
And I've put these out, these ordinances. I'm like, really? You went and actually dug up a 2005 ordinance? You couldn't find it on Machinery Row, or I'm sure the arena had. We're gonna. No problem here.
The bottom line is this is a real shift in attitude by QA Shakur. I mean,
put him back on.
Let it all ride. We got to watch out for this $500 donation.
Now, where I'm going with this is that we changed this to $2,500. You're looking at, I mean, we got about, 20 different service departments. If each and every one of those could take in $2,500, if you do that per month, it may not happen, but this is open. If you had 20 service departments and they were able to take in $2,500 a month, that's $50,000 per month. If you would do that times 12, that's over $600,000.
$600,000. That's a familiar
the magic
figure.
Number.
Yeah. Wait a minute, $50,000 a month.
That was phase 2 of the arena, wasn't it?
600,000.
Phase 1 of the arena.
Phase 1 of the arena, no problem there. Well, 600,000, that's not a problem.
And that was just for a study.
That was a study of stack of papers about inch thick.
Yeah, but some of them were pictures, so that added
there was
the volume.
There was some.
I think it's hypothetically possible, theoretically possible, I should say, for someone to do 2,500 to 10 different departments 12 times a year. But the probabilities of that happening is once maybe every couple 100,000 years.
Yeah. I mean, what are the odds here?
How long has it been since it happened last? If it's been 190,000 years, we might be in a really risky territory.
Back in the caves.
This is the kind of stuff that cracks me up.
Back when
the BS that gets pumped out there, and then the guy at home thinking, well, that's possible. No, it's impossible. It doesn't happen. It will not happen. I mean, this is just another way to puff yourself up to make it sound like I'm going to stop corruption. What do you mean? You've been in the thick of it, for crying out loud. Stop it, or
it's safe to stop corruption over here.
Well, you got to start somewhere, and now is a good time.
All right, I got to go back.
All right, let's see some.
Now, the fact of the matter is that, and I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not saying that this current administration, that the current police department, that the current fire department would do something shady. But I'm of the opinion that if we put something together, it should be solid, that it lasts for years and years. You can very well have a police department, which we don't have that now, but down the road, you never know, who could have their uniform on, who could go to different groups or organizations, and they may want them to contribute to a particular thing that they want to do something about, and all of a sudden you're getting all this money that's coming that can be used for the police department or the fire department or the health department or any other department. Not only that, the mayor's department.
The mayor's department.
That would
Wait a second.
really.
That was the other mayor.
Is there such thing as a mayor's department?
That would be really corrupt.
No, we shouldn't be laughing because he's got me scared now.
I tell you, for a guy that
you want a policeman walking into your business saying, "Give me $2,500 every month."
Yeah. That's,
oh, well,
maybe better watch out. Yeah,
that ain't happening now, but could happen. Could happen.
Yeah, and for a guy that absolutely bows down to the police department, I'm just amazed that he's saying something like that in the same breath.
That's why he's scared.
Corruption, yeah.
No, I'll tell you why. It's election time.
Is that what it is?
He's got to pander to his district. And one of it is, those police, they just might be shady. Oh my God.
I guess it depends on how you interpret it.
Yeah, no, that's what this looks like. I mean, there's all these concerns now with police brutality or shooting black people and all that type of stuff. And so
he doesn't mention that. He's talking about donations.
He worked it into a different angle. That's all.
Yeah, had to.
It's okay if you shoot
bring up
people.
something.
Don't be shaking.
One of the things too is that the media's there and they're looking at this so they can put that in the paper. He's concerned about corruption on these donations, on this money that. And the funny thing about it, it went to finance. Nobody objected to it. But when it comes to the Common Council floor, all of a sudden now we're grandstanding. It's all BS.
Well, wait a minute. The Finance Committee is not...
He runs the Finance Committee. There was no objection at the Finance Committee before it came.
That's not taped and shown to the public, though, right?
No.
Oh, well, that's maybe the difference.
Yeah, no objection there. Yeah. But when it comes to the Common Council, then the grandstanding starts.
Is there any more of this we want to watch?
Well, let's see what we got on here.
If he or she is in the office and they could take in $2,500 unlimited, each donation, $2,500. Next month, $2,500. Every week, $2,500. I mean, it can be very questionable. So, I applaud the alderperson of the 12th, but I think this needs to be a little more refined. And for this to pass as it is, the alder of the 8th I don't think this is a good idea as is. Now, on your desk, there's a copy of the whole document. That's the whole ordinance, so to speak, which was passed back in 2005. To me, that's very loose.
Well, I feel a lot safer.
Oh my God, you keep watching out for us.
Yeah, thank you, Q.
Yeah. Somebody's looking out for us.
Oh man, oh man.
You can't make it up, man.
We went from $2,500 a month to $2,500 a week.
Yeah, unlimited.
Yeah, that's like 4 times the pace.
The thing is, if you really were going to do an actual breakdown of what was the actual amount that was donated to the city from the private sector in the last year, and I'll bet you it wasn't all that much.
That would be an interesting statistic.
I mean, that should be something. When he gets the ordinance, he puts it on the desk so we can grandstand to get.
Well, you know why it's not a problem, because it's too small an amount.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, when you get
people, if it went up to $2,500, people would be donating a lot more.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
All right. Well, hey, let's. We got to talk about the RDA a little bit here tonight, don't we?
Well, I think we have some property.
What are they up to? There's a small business loan that's been proposed. Proposed? Is that like a? Isn't this part of the RDA here? City of Racine, SBDRLF eligibility. SBDRLF, this has got to be the alphabet soup episode here. That's the Small Business Development
Revolving
Loan
Fund. A revolving loan fund means they loan it out, and then they get payments back, sometimes with a little bit of interest, 2%, and then they can loan it out again. Nobody defaults on the loan.
Now that's just part of this. That's 36% of this proposed loan that the RDA is involved in. Then there's the WWBIC/SBA. That's $250,000. That's 52% of the loan. The That's
the Women's Initiative.
Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative.
Small business and a small businesses. So it's part of it's
corporation.
A bank loan, yeah. So what it is the RDA is now becoming a lender to businesses. In this particular case, it's the Little Port Brewing Company, which is the old Wiggly building on Wisconsin Avenue, the Wiggly building, which
down near the Journal Times.
Right. Yeah. They want to borrow $175,000 to them for a brewery. And out of the what is it, the CBGD? Is that how it is? What is it?
CDs.
Yeah,
CBG.
Yeah.
Well,
Fund. Now that was a fund that was federal money that's gone in. How the RDA got a hold of that money, I don't know. And how they are the ones that are dictating how this money is spent is another one. But why are we loaning money to small business? I don't understand that. I mean,
well,
it's
yeah,
a city
it's
entity.
unusual that a city is doing it. Now, we were talking earlier about how much money is actually in the CDBG fund, which is a Community Development Block Grant Fund, and the speculation was it possibly $1.5 million.
Right, I think that's what they roughly get a year, maybe less. But
so this $175,000, $174,980, that they're proposing to lend out of that is like more than 11% of that $1.5 million going to one business.
And there's a huge list of people that come in, go to the hearing and give testimony as why they should get, and normally it's in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $10,000.
Right. I mean, these are small. These are after-school programs, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into the community, in smaller increments. But now they have this. Now, this was under John Dickert, this business initiative loan from the federal dollars, and this is what was put in. Now,
have you seen any other proposals?
No. I think this may be the first one, and I'm not saying the company that's in it. It's the Flynn's, and they're in that.
They're nice folks.
Yeah, but the fact is, should the city be loaning these dollars out on a revolving fund type basis for businesses when you can't get the loan? Obviously, they're not able to get the loan from a bank.
Well, I think they have to now. They've set up so many barriers to business. Yeah, I looked into the zoning laws, and I thought, well, I really want to investigate it. And the first 15 pages was the table of contents.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, legal size paper. 12-point type, double spaced. But that was just the table of contents. And I thought, once I looked at it, I thought, man, there's the barrier, because you have to get through that, in order to open up a business.
Yeah.
All right. So they got this great big barrier. It's so complicated that the city is considering hiring somebody, putting a new person on staff that will help new businesses get through that barrier. So they first set up the barrier. Now they have to get somebody to help them get through the barrier. And this is the step after that, where we're now going to get some help, but we're going to get you some money.
Oh my God.
Now it'd be a lot simpler just to eliminate the barrier. The people would just go ahead. But the problem with that is, go ahead, Jim. What were you going to say?
Yeah, well, the problem with that is we lose the positions, and now we don't need these positions.
Well, in the government. Plus, we don't no longer get to pick and choose who succeeds.
Exactly.
And that's what they really want. They don't want just anybody coming in and starting up a business.
Conditional
they want to make
use
sure
permit. We all go back to that.
And the conditional
use. And they're also talking about facade grant and a white box grant.
Yeah.
Basically, we're financing this business.
There's 46% and 52%. That's 98% of the projected cost of the project.
It looks to me like the white box grant might be. I'm just guessing at this. Might be for the commercial, where it's stores and stuff like that.
Well,
this one, a brewery, that's more of a manufacturing thing. Yeah. Could be it's something like that.
And I think
but the point is, they both have to get money.
Right.
For the people we want to get through. So you first have to decide who's going to get through the barrier, and then once we've decided, okay, you're the one we want, now we're going to give you money and assistance to get through this.
Well, this is a big chunk of money, and all I got to say to you out there is if you're thinking about opening a business in Racine, I would imagine that a brewery is not at the top of the priority list for things that we want to create in terms of business in this community. There might be other things that would.
Well, I can think of a lot of better things, but right now.
But if they want to give it to a brewery, maybe if you're talking about building solar panels or
but isn't there this direction of we want to have more?
I don't like the whole thing. I don't like the whole thing.
Entertainment, and we want to have party places, but it's going to be a fun town.
You're never ever gonna succeed by just loaning the money out from well, we like you and you meet our criteria, but I'm sorry, you don't. I mean, that's never going to work in an open market. I don't like this one bit. I don't like the fact that government gets into lending money. I know they have home loans for somebody who wants to get their new siding, and that's a little different.
You don't have a business that you would like to get help with?
Well, I don't have anything now, no. But I still. But
listen, I mean, you got a friend here.
I got to be honest.
Theodore the dog. And, maybe you could open up a dog park.
Yeah, I don't want to go to a dog park.
Oh, come on, Teddy could use a dog park.
But here's the thing. Again, we go back to it. I just do not see where we should be in the development business as a city. Anywhere near it. I mean, it's been disaster after disaster. Let's go back to Point Blue. We go to the engine factory, $400,000. I mean, I'm not trying to jinx this company, but I'll be honest with you, that's a stretch to make a buck here. I mean, you're talking about almost $500,000 loan. That's a big nut to crack every month to keep that note going. Yeah. And I know it's got a 24-month deferral on it. It's just. I think that money.
You got to sell a lot of beer to keep up with that.
I really agree with you, Jim. I think the first step is to look at that 15 pages of table of contents of zoning, and see if we can't just dump it.
I'm going to tell you,
George, that was not homegrown, folks. That thing came from someplace up high. I wouldn't be surprised if it came from the federal government, because that's where complicated things like that get developed. And if we just get rid of that and go back to the good old, the 4 zones, residential, commercial, industrial, and office, we could just open the doors for innovation, and people would not need the money, they would not need the guidance, they just start
open it up, right? Yeah. Start it small and build into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how our city was built.
Open up a bakery in your kitchen, for crying out loud, or something.
Well, if you could do that, that would be really. I mean, when Racine was in its growth period, you had factories in the middle of residential areas, and right in there was food stores and schools, and because everybody didn't have a car, and it was nice to be able to walk to work. But the planner said, no, that's too random. That's confusing. We want things organized. We're going to put all the industry out here, and we're going to put all the office out here, and all the residential all by itself.
How's that working out?
Yeah, except nobody can get to work unless they got a car.
Right. Nobody get to a job, right? Yeah. No homegrown businesses.
No, it'd be great to just reopen. I mean, right down in the next block to me, I can still see the old sign, but there it was a manufacturer of small tools, small motors.
There was all kinds of stuff.
Which one was that?
Corner of Hubbard and Wisconsin. I don't know the names on the side. I've been really thinking of hiring a painter with the permission of the owner and bring that sign back.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Beautiful commercial.
Hubbard in Wisconsin.
Okay, it's got the old truck docks, right at the front of the building.
Yeah. I know the building.
Right there.
You don't remember what business it was down there?
No, it's been probably quite a while. But there's a lot of businesses.
I think it's Precision Tool or something like that.
But there's a lot of businesses that were behind houses, these big old barns that you see. They ran a business out of it. I mean, and those are the kind of things. It takes a while. Racine's got to do things a little bit different.
Look where Twin Disc is. Look where some of these companies are. Johnson's Wax. Yeah. Johnson's Wax, right smack dab, and houses all around it, you know.
Yep.
Well, the ones that are left that haven't been torn down for the moat.
What they did is they didn't like the idea that right across the street from them were houses. So they bought all the houses back about 100 feet. Yep. So surrounding their office.
Speaking of houses, I think the city just took possession of several houses and properties.
Wait to this one, folks. Here we go.
Why don't we run through the inventory of what we got there? But now we got all of those came back, and they
went to the county, and then they were taken back for tax delinquency, taken to the county, and then, well, the old days used to put them up for bid. Now the city has requested that those homes come to the city, and so they can, peel them off to nonprofits or insiders to apparently rehab. I don't know. Again, the city's into more development on property. I mean, I got a problem when you go out and do these individual sites and then do rehabs, it doesn't work. You have to come into a whole area, really do a big deal on a whole area if you're going to really try to change the housing or the complex. Racine has always done this, and it's never really worked. And you see a $200,000 house on an area that will never warrant a $200,000 house.
Well, they don't. As a matter of fact, they were putting up houses that were costing $150,000 to $200,000 and selling them for $50,000, $75,000.
Yeah.
And that was one of those revolving loans too. Now that's one that disappears eventually because
Thank God.
they weren't even allowed to make money. If they bought a house and then sold it for, you could sell it, let's say for $125,000, and it only cost them $110,000 to actually buy it and fix it up, they couldn't charge more than $110,000. So the revolving fund was not allowed to make any money on it. So naturally, the only thing it could do was lose, and that was federally funded, though. So the federal.
Right. I mean, the federal government is just ridiculous with some of this stuff. Yeah. But the fact is, again, the city's back into buying housing. And
when are these available? Are they available now,
I think they've taken them. The city may have.
But I mean, are they available for people to buy, or what?
Well, we got to go down to city development. Now they're in control of them. You know, it's no longer in the open market again. It's well, how did it used to work, George? Wasn't it?
Yeah, there were some rules once the county took it over, and the county is the only. That was one of the things the sheriff did. He went down and foreclosed. You know, he was the armed person that foreclosed on it, and then it would go into the county's hands. Now the county's treasurer, and I'm pretty sure I'm right in this 2 years. For the first 2 years of their holding it, they could not sell it for less than what the taxes were due. Now, a lot of these, particularly the ones that the house has been torn down, the tax delinquency is much greater than what the property's worth.
Right.
So naturally, the treasurer had to sit on it for at least 2 years. And Jane Nicolai might want to correct that. It's in that neighborhood, though. It's a short period of time involving a short number of years. And then at that point, I believe it could be reduced in price, and I've forgotten whether it had to be 10% of the value or if there was any limit on that. But then after another year, then it would be highest bidder. And at that point, I mean, I have picked up some lots where they've been torn down, and I would get them for $500, $1,000.
Right.
Now this goes back a ways, but. So now it's back in private hands, and it's up to me to take care of the property, and if I want to develop it or something like that, which normally I didn't. I like the green space myself, but
back to the fact that again, it's now in the city's hands. The county did a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, that would keep it in the private sector.
Yeah,
where it would be developed properly.
People had problems with their property. It went back. Someone else bought it, moved in, fixed it up, whatever. I mean, it was just kind of the way. I mean, if a bank did that, why aren't they just going after bank property then?
Well, at best, the city is just going to have it temporarily, right?
Well,
I mean, what the heck is the point of?
I think they've got some kind of plan again for that whole. It seems a lot of it's on Phillips Avenue and Packard Avenue, and in that area near Johnson's that they want to kind of redevelop that area. Again, you know, we've seen that in different areas, and they've been limited success, really, at best. But what it does is it keeps people in the city development in business. It keeps city employees moving, and there's something to do all the time.
Something to do.
And I got a real problem with them being developers. I just don't see them that they should be developers. They've got a horrendous track record. And,
I agree with that. We need to keep the government out of the private sector as much as possible. The private sector does much better with the private sector than the city does.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the city does police, they do fire, the schools. I got no problem with that. But when they want to start developing, and they think they're going to kickstart some great development in the community, why are we collect as much taxes as other communities, but we have a major problem. We don't have the roads, the alleys. We have some real structural problems within infrastructure problems, but yet other communities seem to grow. The reason is because they're coming in. People are coming into those areas. You're not going to find that by just plucking money in Machinery Row, the arena, all that. That's not going to bring in those dollars that you're looking for.
No, you're right on that. But also you haven't mentioned the regulatory problem.
Well, that's
the zoning thing, where we just need to get that loosened up.
You need to have people solve people problems.
Yep.
You let that thing take off. And one of my things always says, when you go down on end of Douglas Avenue from, let's say, High Street to Hamilton Street, that's got a lot of Hispanic businesses in there. I would come down there and I would say, put up a Little Mexico. It's like Little Mexico.
Let her rip.
Let her rip, baby. On Saturdays, you want to sell tires and whatever, anything on the street, let it go. You're going to find that that thing is going to explode. And what's also going to happen is the housing in that area is going to increase because people are going to say,
well,
I want to
they'll have some business and some commerce.
I tell you another thing that's going to increase and develop, and that is character. Because people will get into their own businesses, they'll be doing it on their own, and they're going to build character as opposed to having the government do everything.
Pride of ownership.
You're constantly a slave to the government. And what
How do you think Chinatowns and stuff like that, these great Chinatowns that you go to in San Francisco and different places, I mean, they are fantastic. And how did they start? They started because the immigrants came in and they said, you know what, I can start it here, and they were left alone, and they created this great environment.
I tell you, buddy, the New Louis Gui Cafe, Chinatown in San Francisco. You know, when I lived there in 1968, you could get 3 pork chops, a mound of rice, a nice brown gravy on it, 85 cents.
Well,
85 cents, and then you got a beverage and a piece of sponge cake for dessert. Anyway,
life was good.
We got some homework for you people here. There's a lot of talk about the Second Amendment here lately, and it follows on the heels of that shooting down in Florida. And there's an awful lot of people who are clinging to that Second Amendment and talking about the importance of it. And I'm here to tell you that the Fourth Amendment is something that's been kind of ignored. The Fourth Amendment is what keeps you safe and secure in your home and in your person. And it's the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. So your homework is to go and look at the Fourth Amendment and to review probable cause and what is now the standard in a lot of situations, reasonable suspicion, what the difference is and how it impacts you. So you go and look at that stuff and then get back to us and talk about it, because I think that's at least as important as the Second Amendment.
Well, the Second Amendment is the big thing. I think it's take your eye off the ball of the Fourth Amendment, because the Fourth Amendment is, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, people talk about the Second Amendment. That's your defense against a tyrannical government. But I'll tell you what, a gun ain't going to help you if the Fourth Amendment goes down the tubes, and it's sliding fast.
Yeah,
so.
and that really is the important one.
Yeah,
I feel it is. Yeah.
Well, and with all the different ways of looking into people's lives now, through with electronically and through this new kind of media, and massive amounts of detail on your lives are being stored, and right now it's not that big a problem unless you become a target.
Yep, exactly.
If you become a target, now all of a sudden they have all this data they can pull up.
As long as you're the target, it's okay. As long as they don't come after me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in Nazi Germany.
That's exactly how it happened.
Yeah. Well,
that's exactly how it happened.
There's a city, a United States attorney said many years ago, around 1985, he said, "Give me enough information about a person, and I will find a crime that fits them and put them in jail." The point being, there's so many rules and regulations, and if there's enough data out there, he can find something that you did.
Oh, that goes back even further. There was a French philosopher that said that.
Well, the first one I heard was in 1985. It came from a United States attorney, and that was because
I'll do my homework and come up with that philosopher for you.
Yeah.
In the meantime, thank you for being here. We appreciate your participation in this project, and we'll see you again very soon. Have a good day.